Hey everyone, and welcome back to our Tuesday talks with the Google Student Developer Club. My name is Naveed, and you are with DMZ. The DMZ is a world-leading accelerator for tech startups in Canada. We help startups build great businesses by connecting them with customers, capital, and experts with a community of entrepreneurs and influencers. For us, this means we create an environment where you can focus on scaling your business. We help with the rest. Today's partnership is with the DMZ Sandbox and our summer program called Basecamp. DMZ Basecamp is an intensive student incubation program that helps young entrepreneurs create tech solutions to growing social or economic gaps in society over the course of 8 weeks in the summer. In this award-winning summer program, students tap into their potential, learn how to develop and market business ideas, and with the help of young innovators, industry mentors, and successful entrepreneurs. This is an opportunity for students to start real companies and gain experimental learning opportunities to apply and what they've learned and solve the world's biggest problem. Today, we are joined again by Madhusha. Madhusha works at the Google Developer Club and currently works as a tech consultant specializing in digital media. Before working for Google, Madhusha worked as the director of the Waterloo chapter of the Foundry Institute. Developer student clubs are university-based community groups for students interested in Google developer technology. Students from all undergraduate and graduate programs with an interest in growing as a developer are welcome. By joining a DSC, students grow their knowledge in a peer-to-peer learning, environmental, and build solutions for local businesses in their community. It is my pleasure to introduce Madhusha.
As always, thank you, Naveed. So today's session is with Hunar. She's joining us from India, all the way from India. Hunar, are we going to see you?
Yes, can you see me?
No, I can't see your camera. So let me focus a little bit. Nope, we only see a big edge, and then. Did you join?
My camera is on. Yes, I've joined from 2 devices.
Oh, okay. Let me double check. I gotta find you now.
Yeah, I see her just down there.
Okay, one second. Oh yeah, okay. There you are. 1 second. Okay. So how are you? How are things?
I'm good.
So
everything's going fine.
So you were at DSC. I met you when I came to the DSC summit in India last year. How are things different? I know we compared a lot of nodes. You guys have more than 200 chapters there, and now you co-founded a startup. So give us a little bit of a background. How did you get into tech? What was the motivation? And you have participated in a number of other events and competitions and things like that. Tell everybody a little bit of your background.
Yes, sure. I'm currently a third-year student studying computer science at Delhi University. I got into tech exactly 3 years ago only. And I'm really interested in technology because of the fact that you can bring any of your idea to life by just converting your imagination into code. And that's what I really love about technology, because you can just build any crazy idea that you have in your mind. So that's what I love about it. And yes, I was a developer student club lead for my university for the past 1.5 years. And even developer student club was a great program through which I got to learn a lot, interact with other leads, and got involved in the global community of developer student club leads and conducting events, workshops. It has been a great journey, honestly. I've learned a lot through it. And even managing the core team and leading projects.
So do you want to talk a little bit about some of the projects that you guys did?
Yeah, sure. So we worked on a project which is a multilingual voice application to deliver healthcare literacy in multilingual. So basically, it supports English, Hindi, and some other languages as well. So we built that at a hackathon, and then we further worked on it as well later on. And we even published research work for that project, which was even published at IEEE Explore. So I'll tell you more about it, how we built it, etc., as I talk more about chatbots, because even that's again related to chatbots.
Right. So I noticed one thing, one interesting thing with the community in India was that there was great interconnectivity between mentors and experts, as well as the students within. So you have your WhatsApp group; they always ping me till the middle of the night. How did that come about? Like, I know we are running this series part to show how to build things and what kind of technologies to use, but the underlying messages, you don't know everything. How did you guys reach out? What was that network like? What did it take? Any tips you want to share off the bat?
For conducting events, to get mentors, etc.
And then even to like when you're doing your projects and things like that.
So for the mentors, I mean, in India, there are a lot of Google developer experts as well. So through DSC again, there is a community leads panel through which we can connect with other GDs as well and ask them to either speak at events, etc., that we're conducting for developer student club, and they've also guided us for several projects also. So mainly through the community leads platform and other social media, even pinging them on Twitter, LinkedIn. They always used to be there to help.
Okay, so I know I got invitations a few times. We made a few connections, and I'm happy to collaborate. And I think we have some more mentors from India that I would like to engage on the North American side. One other thing I wanted to ask you was women in tech, female presence in technology. And Madhavi, you can be more than welcome to jump here as well. The reason I'm asking this is I know this cohort that we're talking to in the DMZ, there's a sizable amount of women who are budding to be entrepreneurs in this space. I know when I attended it, the presence wasn't as high, but you guys were very vocal. You had a great presence, even though the Indian community, we didn't have that. What was that like? Any tips that you would like to share, like off the top of your head? What kind of challenges did you guys face?
So honestly, I was in a college which was all girls. So I was so my entire 3 years I was surrounded by women in technology. So that has been really inspiring as well. Seeing a lot of girls get into technology, and through developer student clubs as well, I could encourage more students to step into the world of technology, try out different technologies. So that has been something great as well. And talking about the challenges, yes, there were some issues with conducting the events, etc., like getting the venue for conducting the event in the beginning when the DSC club just started, uh, then managing everything, coordinating with everyone. So that also was a challenge. But then along the way, I learned how to do all of this, and I've learned all of these skills now, all through DSC.
So,
Honestly.
so, so I'm very happy to have you, and I like the fact that you're mentoring other women who are interested in technology. So kudos to that. And tell us a little bit about what we're going to learn today.
Sure. So today's session is going to be on process automation with chatbots. So I'll be sharing my journey with Hashtag and how we've been building chatbots for businesses to help them automate the regular mundane tasks. And also I'll be sharing more tips about how you can automate the regular tasks using various other tools and what is the future of automation.
And you have customers, you already have customers that you support, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So that being said, I think this is going to be a great session. I'm going to hand it over to you to continue with it.
Sure.
So you're on the screen now with your
Okay.
presentation. Okay, awesome.
So first I'll be starting with Hashtag and what we build. So basically at Hashtag, we have been building conversational omni-channel solutions for businesses to help them automate their interactions with customers, marketing and lead generation. So I'm pretty sure that you all must have interacted with at least one chatbot in your life, because chatbots are becoming widespread these days and they're literally everywhere now. A lot of businesses, especially e-commerce businesses, etc., they've been deploying chatbots for their business to handle their day-to-day social media interactions with their clients. So, so what does a chatbot basically do? A chatbot helps in automating the interaction, the frequently asked questions that the customers usually have, and uh, and also the best thing about the chatbot is that it works 24/7. It can also automate marketing and lead generation. So if a user is chatting with the bot, so basically the bots, they are integrated with a full funnel integration. So using that, based on the flow that the user is going into, based on that, it can recommended more products and then market some more products, etc., to upsell some additional items. And for lead generation, it can understand based on the interactions of the user what kind of direction the user is going into based on the based on the conversation. And then specifically then the bot can gain some insights about what kind of products that customer is actually interested in, and then further follow up with that customer with those kind of products only. And also this helps in providing a personalized marketing experience and the sales conversion all on autopilot. So it really helps saving time for businesses, because in a day businesses, they receive a lot of queries and they are usually very repetitive. So businesses, they usually have to set up a separate department that can handle such queries. But that's like but then that again requires a lot of operational costs for the business. So a chatbot is the solution for this.
So Hunar, very quickly, I know you had a picture of a mobile app, kind of a setup
Yes.
there, but it's not necessarily in a mobile app interface. You can integrate this technology to anything existing or new.
Yes, right.
Or other platforms
right.
as well, right? Okay.
This interface is basically for Facebook Messenger.
Okay.
So actually, this is like a created image. So this is not the exact chatbot. So we build chatbots for Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp Messenger, and various other messaging platforms like Telegram, and there are bots for Twitter as well.
Awesome. Yeah.
And Slack too. So again, now these are some benefits of having chatbots for a business. So it helps you be available for your clients 24/7, and you can easily handle the customer queries instantly and collect leads whenever, even when your sales representatives are asleep or whatever. This also helps you boost sales with the personalized marketing, the personalized messaging as well, because it results in greater customer engagement and helps business shoot up their sales. And as I just mentioned, it really helps in reducing operational costs. Businesses do not have to set up separate departments or a team to handle the messenger, the WhatsApp chats, or the Facebook Messenger messages. And also thus it helps increase the productivity, boost the efficiency of the business performance, and reduce the amount of human resources by automating the frequently asked questions that are usually asked to a business. So these are some potential industries that usually have been using chatbots. So for restaurants, there have been bots that can help customers get to know more about the menu or make a reservation or even order online if they offer that. For e-commerce, it's been so the chatbots have been the chatbots are there for e-commerce stores as well. Like you can even place an order now through a chatbot on Messenger or WhatsApp. And also they are being used for hospitality, for hotels, their reward programs, more information about the bookings. And for healthcare also, it's being used. Like there are some chatbots to which you can just tell your symptoms, and then it can just tell you some potential things that you could maybe check in for with the doctor. For customer service, chatbots are being highly used. So for automating the frequently asked questions, and even for banking and trading, charity, and plus there are many more use cases as well for chatbots. Like even in the mental health domain, like there is a bot called Wobot. So this is a video. Let me just show you how the flow goes like of a chatbot. So this is a demo chatbot for a restaurant for Messenger. So for this bot on Messenger, it supports an interactive conversation user interface as well. So we've added buttons to make it more engaging so that the user knows what it can do. And even it can handle the free flow text or any queries that the user might have. So in this bot, the user is basically making a reservation at a restaurant. And once the user gives all of this information is then saved to the backend database, which goes to the restaurant, so that they can handle all the reservations that are being made by the bot. These are examples of some more bots. Like this is a WhatsApp bot on the left side for a charity organization. So basically, using this bot, we could help them automate their queries about how users can make contribution to, they can donate, etc., and about the latest ongoing campaigns that users can actually donate to. And even for Messenger, on the right side we have this Messenger bot for the same organization. And even with the donate now, so they can for on the Messenger bot, they can even make the payment right through the bot as well, because Messenger does support the payment APIs.
So interesting, Hunar. So last week we spoke about um, human interaction design when you're doing prototypes and things like that.
Yeah.
So for the students who are tuning in, you got to think about the behavior, right? Like, let's say you build
Yes,
a
right.
website and you got to bring the person to a website, then you got to get them to navigate it. Versus if you can create that same experience through a chatbot in an interface that they're already familiar with, like Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp, that barrier to entry or the friction that you create using the website itself, for example, might disappear. So the engagement might improve. So that's something to keep in mind. As you can see, there are so many ways you can input into it, and you can make it so familiar in such a way that they get the value that you're trying to bring to them right away. So
Yes, right. And even designing the conversational user interface is one of the most important things that we have to consider when we're building a chatbot, because the conversational user interface is like the flow of conversation and how the conversation is going to go like. So that again comes under the designing part of the chatbot, where we have to think of different use cases, that different queries that a user could make, and how we need to handle it. And then we need to map it to the particular intent that is going to actually handle that specific query. So that is again a design process of the chatbot. And and to make it intuitive, we've also added buttons, etc., wherever we could. And yes, a chat a chat screen is something that everyone is very familiar with. And even a research by Harvard recently stated that that the millennials usually prefer the chat interface more to interact with the business, because it also gives a personal touch, and also it's the chat interface which everyone is familiar with now. Here's another bot that is for KLM. So this is a bot deployed on the KLM Facebook page, where users, they can just uh, get information about their uh, boarding tickets, their flights, etc., or get information about any delays. And some more examples about the bots that already do exist in the market. This is a bot for MasterCard. So over here, users, they can get to know about how much they have been spending, or if there are any offers, or more about their cards or their available balance. So they can easily get all of this information. All of this information is just a text away. And also Pizza Hut also has a bot where users, they can just get to know about the orders, their orders. They can get to know about deals. They can place an order. They can even reorder. So that's something great, because the bot remembers what order you placed last. So that is also another great thing. Then again, this is a trading bot which tells about your portfolios and how the market has been doing, about the stock market prices. You can get notifications from the bot. You can subscribe to the bot, and it will keep on messaging you on Messenger with the latest prices, or if there are any information, etc. Then this is another bot which has been deployed by Marriott Rewards, so that their customers, they can get to know more about the offers that are going on, or they can avail their points against any new offer. So these were some of the examples of how chatbots are actually being currently used in the industry at the moment? Uh, so now I'll talk about what are some of the global market insights for chatbots. So from booking flights to helping diagnose medical issues, chatbots are literally all around us. What's more is that the presence of chatbots in our daily lives will only increase in the near future. And according to a research firm, Research and Markets, the global chatbot market will expand from $2.6 billion in 2019 to $9.4 billion in 2024, which is almost a 30% increase in the annual growth rate. And the compound annual growth rate for chatbots is 53%. Also, Gartner says that AI will be mainstream customer experience investment in the next couple of years. 47% of the organizations will use chatbots or for customer care, and 40% will deploy virtual assistants. And also, another study by Outgrow says that 80% of businesses are expected to have some sort of chatbot automation by 2020. So there is a lot of scope for chatbot in the future because it helps automate uh, the regular repetitive tasks that have been there since ages. And
I think these numbers might have already hit some targets due to COVID.
yeah,
Yeah.
this is from a report that was published before COVID.
Before COVID, yeah.
Yes. But still, even as COVID is going on, so in fact, chatbots I mean, as everyone is also working from home, so another place where chatbots can actually play a big role is that they can again help businesses, etc., be more productive during this time, and they can actually focus on the tasks that are more important for their business rather than going on to handle the messages and queries, etc. So chatbots can again help businesses here in this case as well. So I think I've said enough about chatbots and how businesses have been using it and what we have been doing in the past few months. So now I would like to share a little about the product ideation journey. This is based on my experience, my personal experience. So maybe if you can also follow it and it can help you with your next startup. So the first step for ideating your product, any of the software product, is to identify that what is the problem that already exists in the market or around you. What is it that the customers actually require? What is the thing that actually lacks, and what could you build around it that can actually bridge the gap between the problem that exists? Like for in our case, we analyze that businesses, they receive way a lot of queries like every single day, so it can sometimes become um, unmanageable for them to manage all of that. So hence we thought of building something around it that could help businesses become more productive in that case. So before ideating any startup idea, look around and think of the problems that exist and what are the needs of your end users.
So what you're trying to say is, I know you listed out some industries, so restaurants to travel to healthcare. So each industry, even each and every customer are going to have different expectations
Yes,
when they're engaging with it, right? So we need to understand what it is.
yes, right.
And for the audience, I looked into this space a little while ago, and I noticed like they have inbuilt infrastructure for certain things. So, for example, like jokes, you can just plug in a joke, or you have introductory questions and things like that. What's your name? Hi, my name is this, some type of a structure.
Yes, right.
How often do you see, since you work with different customers, that you're able to build some of those existing plugins and bring it to another app. Do you see that often at all, or do you have to build it and you got to understand the customer every time you go through a new process?
We don't have to build. I mean, we have the basic plugins ready for majority of the different scenarios. So once we understand the requirements of the clients, we so first we try to build a prototype that the client can interact with, and then based on the industry that we're making the chatbot for, we include those kind of responses as well in the chatbot, and we add that sort of funnel integration as well in the chatbot. So first step is to actually, whenever we get in touch with any client, we have to understand what is their industry, what they have already been doing, and
Right.
what social media channels they've already been using. That's when we come up with a plan for their a specific business, and we curate a plan around their specific use case. But for majority of the other stuff, like the basic stuff, we do have the plugins ready, so we quickly just add it to the bot. And for the rest of the client specific stuff, we have to build rest of the flow every time.
Sounds
So
good.
that's how
Yeah.
it goes. So once you're done with, it's in the product ideation journey, once you've identified what problem actually exists that the customers or any of your end users are facing, then you go on to actually and understand the problem even deeper and understand that who are your end users, who are the people who are actually going to use your software, your application, who will be your customers. Try to understand what are their requirements and what are their needs. Like for in our case, since we make chatbots for businesses, for small and medium sized businesses, startups, etc. So so hashtag is mainly a business to business, a B2B business. So that's how we had to analyze that who is going to be our end user, so that then we can analyze and understand deeper into it, and what sort of a product will actually help them.
So,
And the next step is to sorry.
so Hunar, the other thing I want to ask you was, so you're bringing another element to this, even though we thought about it or not, and that's how people feel, right? So, for example, if you're dealing with customer service, sometimes people might be very angry, or sometimes people are in a rush to get booked, something, or frustrated, which you don't have to worry about if you build a website off just an application. So I think that's another element you need to keep in mind when you're building it. So when you say the needs, those emotional needs also need to take into consideration, I think.
Yes, we are working on embedding the emotional part to it so that it can actually analyze the sentiment of the user. So if the user is actually becoming a little angry, then we can respond back to them with a message that can help them calm down, etc., and help them understand whatever. So we are adding a flow for it, and in some of the bots we do handle some of the specific cases as well. But and how a chatbot can actually help in this is that the chatbot will provide a personalized touch to the chat, which a website will not be able to. So if a person is angry, if a customer is angry but they're on the website, so the website cannot understand what is going wrong with the user, but the chatbot can still try to understand based on the words or based on the sentence used by the customer, and then it can send a message that can just calm down the customer and add a personal element touch to it. So that's how the chatbot can be better at this than a website. So continuing with the product ideation journey. So after the first and second step, the next step is to actually do a thorough research and gain knowledge into that respective industry. Understand if there are any competitors or if there are any patterns that are already existing, and research more about what already exists so that you know that what is it that others are already doing and what is it that is already existing in the market, so that then you can think of making your product a little more unique to what already exists. So research is very important. You must understand what already does exist. Then after that, then you should go on to ideate your solution. So now, so when you're at the fourth stage, you've got enough information about what problem exists, who are your end users at the end, and you've got enough research about the market industry. So now it's time for you to ideate your solution, brainstorm, make it your product, which is something a little unique at least. Like try to add some unique element to it, and basically just brainstorm and ideate a product that can help solve the needs and the requirements of your end users. So this is mainly how the product ideation journey should go like based on my experience. Then further, so these are 3 Ds of building any kind of software product or any product. So these can be applied anywhere. So the first is design, the second is develop, and then deploy. Design is one of the most important step, because in the design step, it's your chance to actually ideate and think how you want your application or product to look like and how you want it to turn out. So it is your chance to design it. Like for in our case, we had to design the conversational user interface and what different kind of features we actually want to add to the chat, what different scenarios we need to handle in the conversation. So that's something that comes in the design process. You can use various prototyping tools. Like for chatbots, there are different prototyping tools, including the Bot Society tool, Botmock, etc., where you can easily prototype a chatbot and create a sample conversation that you can just play around with then. These are some steps for designing a solution. So the first step is to have a clear and a well-defined problem before you start building the solution. And then next, you should identify the best solution based on the user's problem and also on your team resources, capabilities, and who is there on your team, etc. What kind of skills you have in your team. And once you're done with all of this, then now it's time for you to design the interface, how your application, your end product is actually going to look like and how it's going to work. What are the different features that you can actually embed into that application. Try to consider all the different cases about different kind of features, and then make a priority list for the features, how you're going to add them and integrate those features into your application.
So Hunar, I'm not sure whether we're going to walk through an example going through each and every step. Are we going to do that, or is it okay if I ask a few questions?
Sure, I can do that. I can walk you through how we did it.
So yeah, okay. Yeah.
So again, for the problem, as I explained, that first we did extensive research into the industry and tried to understand the requirements and needs for businesses. How often do customers actually message a business? So we tried to research more about it, and then we understood that there are some businesses that actually do receive a lot of customer queries, and specifically that's for e-commerce businesses or restaurants. They do receive a lot of messages, and those messages are very repetitive. So this was the problem in our case, and the next step was to identify a solution. So we thought of automating it using chatbots. Chatbots have been becoming very widespread these days, so we thought of why not try to just use chatbots in this use case. And we even found out that there were some other businesses as well that were making chatbots too. And the next thing was to design the interface. So we played around with uh, different tools that were out there, and we even built some prototypes that we could show to clients, some actual working bots. We've got our fully functional bot there on our Facebook page as well, and even we have a WhatsApp bot for hashtag too. So because that's what then the clients can interact with and see and understand what we're trying to make. Then the next was also to design the technology. Once we fully understood the problem and how a user is going to interact with our solution, um, so we understood how users have been interacting with our solution. So we did a lot of tests with friends, etc., and we told them to try out a bot, and then based on that, we try to understand that what are the particular conversational flows that a user usually goes to, what are the kind of messages that a user is sending, and because we had to make the chatbot robust to handle majority of the use cases that we can. I mean, we're still building up on our basic structure. We keep on adding it, and we keep on iterating through it and making it better and better as people keep on chatting with it. And then it was the time for us to design the bots, decide on our technology stack and what we will be using for different platforms to develop the bots. So this was the solution design that we followed for Hush. So as I said, that the most important part for designing a chatbot is designing the conversational user interface. Is there any question?
Yeah, if you guys have any questions, more than happy to ping or send a message and pauses and or unmute, ask.
So I had a question. It was more of how do we transition or grow from a chatbot to a deep learning artificial neural network through like natural language processing and like long-term, short-term memory?
Okay, so there are different kinds of bots that exist. So one is a rule-based bot, which is a very simple if-else bot. The next kind of bot is using third-party NLP APIs to work on to develop the chatbots, and the third one comes out to be the actual natural language processing based chatbots. So currently we are building chatbots from the second stage, and we're doing research in the third stage where we have been exploring different libraries, like there is Hugging Face and even Deep Pablo. So we have been playing around with all of that. So that's a feature that we'll be adding later on to our bots. But to get started quickly, we decided to use the existing tools that exist to quickly prototype and make the bots and ship them.
So Hunar, along his questions, what tech have you been using? Have you played around with Watson from IBM or Dialogflow or anything with Python infrastructure there that you can share with?
So we've played around with various different tools. We've tried different tools like ranging from Dialogflow, Rasa, Lewis.ai, and Wit.ai. So these are, and even ManyChat, etc. So we tried different tools. We tried making bots with all of these, and then we tried to come up to a conclusion of what is actually better for our use case, and what and which one actually offers a greater interoperability in terms of integrating to greater number of platforms easily. So that's how then we came down to mainly be using Dialogflow. So Dialogflow is a natural language processing API which is by Google, and basically Dialogflow is built over the Google Cloud natural language APIs and the Google Cloud speech to text and text to speech APIs. So it's pretty much reliable, and also you can easily integrate it with other platforms, with various platforms just with one tap. So that's what makes using Dialogflow better for our use case.
So
and in the future,
sorry, I'll let you complete your thought there.
And in the future, we have been doing our research and development into creating chatbots that are fully fledged based on our own NLP infrastructure. So that's something for the future for us right now.
So the other, sorry, let me add one more point. The more some of those infrastructures or foundation apps being used, the better they become. So the more applications are built on Dialogflow, the better Dialogflow's NLP becomes.
Yes, right.
Same thing with Watson. So Watson, I think Watson did a lot of finance, logic related work for the past, 20 years or something like that. Because of that kind of learning made their infrastructure a lot better in certain things, whereas Dialogflow was very much like conversation based. And now they're diving into more unsiloed approach. So let's say you want to build a restaurant app. Some of those interactions are already like learned and it knows it. And when you look at the conversation, the confidence intervals, I think it was like 80% accuracy, and those are getting better. And it's pretty freaky as to how good it becomes over time. So pay attention to that. Do a little bit of research as to what industries are using some of those foundation APIs that you can tap into before you make your pick your stack. But
Yes, I totally agree.
did you answer your question? I know you had another question there.
Yeah, so I just had a follow-up question. So right now we're currently exploring like OpenAI. So I was wondering, what would your recommendation be? Would Dialogflow be like another thing to look into?
What are you guys building? You want to give us a little bit more context, background as to what you're trying to do?
Yeah, so we're in like the financial tech industry. I'm from Alpha Liberté. So what we're trying to do is we're creating like an artificial neural network where it's a financial literacy platform where we connect individuals with industry leaders, and at the same time we have a collection of tools to help individuals gain knowledge. We have questions as well where users can answer these questions and they'll gain Alpha Liberté dollars or bits, and they could spend that to either get a premium subscription, or they could purchase reports or set up meetings with industry leaders. So for us, our chatbot or our neural network would be mainly connecting the user with terms that they're unfamiliar with. Like if a user is unfamiliar with, I guess, a definition like butterfly derivatives, they could search it up on our chatbot. And also we're hoping to connect our tools, our individual tools, to the chatbot. So instead of having the user input their information in tools, they could just ask our chatbot, and it'll automatically know to reference one of our tools and plug in all the information, trying to make it interactive.
Okay, that sounds like a great idea. So right now you're using OpenAI. You're trying to explore OpenAI, right?
Yeah.
GPT-3.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're exploring right now.
Okay, that's great. I think GPT-3 is a little restrictive right now with their APIs. But yes, GPT-3 chatbots are actually the future of chatbots, and I will be sharing more about it in the later slides as well.
Okay, that's perfect. Right now we're at GPT-2, but I think 3 is what's coming out, and
yes, 3 has recently come out. Yes, yeah. 3 is way better than GPT-2.
Okay, thank you. So I'll stay patient.
Okay. So continuing about designing the conversational user interface, the CUI is more like how the chatbot actually interacts with the customer, and for this, to design this, you need to consider different queries that a user might have, like for the financial chatbot, like a user can have different kind of queries, like about different terms. So the chatbot should be able to handle all of those different topics that the user might have. So you need to consider all of those when you're trying to design it. And then later, when you try to test it with people, then that's when you can get more insights about how users have been interacting with it. And then you can keep on adding more information to it so that the chatbot knows how to handle a specific query and respond back with a proper reply. So this conversational user interface should also be interactive. You should add a personal touch to the messages that you're creating. Maybe some of the messages could be witty, etc. And also try to keep the messages concise and to the point. I mean, it shouldn't be like a huge para that you return if a user is sending a query. It should be more like a conversation. So if a user wants to know more about something, so first you tell them a little about it, and then you could ask them a follow-up question. And if the user still wants to understand deeper about it, then you could provide a better definition about it. Also, the conversation should not sound robo-like. Try to add a human touch whenever you're framing the sentences for the conversation, for the responses.
Would you also consider like a flow to it? So for example, when a customer joins in, it can be multiple choice very quickly. You don't want to get them frustrated. And as it goes along and the more interactivity you have, it's like a game, right? Like the more you get
right.
into it, now you understand the premise of what the value it brings. So you can dive a little bit more deeper into it. So it's something to keep in mind.
So that's called a funnel integration that we do integrate into the bot. So we can even have like a button interface in the beginning. So based on whether the user wants to see the menu, or they want to make a reservation, or they want to know more about any other stuff. So based on whichever direction the user is going into in terms of the conversation, so that's where they keep on going in the funnel, the flow of the conversation. So this is known as the funnel integration, which we do embed in the conversation, and this is also an important design step to consider before we start developing a chatbot.
How much analytics do you pay attention to? Do you integrate analytics early on in the design phase to verify some of those things, or is that something you consider in the past?
So in the early stages when we are developing it, so basically it's two of us. We are two co-founders. We both work on building it. So we just divide the work, and then we start with building the chatbot, and then we both keep on discussing what can be the different cases that a user could actually say, and we keep on considering those different cases. So that's our step one of actually analyzing. And then the next is that we actually do a demo with the clients, and then we try to understand how the client is actually interacting with the bot, and we also share the bot with some more people around us who interact with the bot, and then we keep on checking the logs about where the chatbot failed and how we could improve it. So we do give like a week worth of time to actually improve it, and based on the insights that we gain from how users have been interacting with it, we keep on making it better. And of course, even once the bot is deployed, we do offer maintenance also for the bot, and we do keep on checking the logs if the client wants maintenance for the bot. So we do keep on following up and keep on making it better as we go along, because it's the best to know how users have been interacting with it. That's what will actually give us a better picture about how to handle different cases, because a user can just ask any sort of question to the bot. So once you're done with the designing step, the next step is to actually develop it. So in the design step, you know what you want to build, you have a prototype ready about what, and you know how you actually want it to look like. So now it's the step for you to actually consider different technical different tech stacks, etc., different tools, and what you can actually use to make your application. So you should consider try out different tech stacks, consider their pros and cons, and how easy it is to get started with it, or how much resource one tech stack needs, etc. And also, you can even keep on searching for different learning resources. I mean, there's learning resources are available for literally every single thing online, so you can just learn anything. So this is some of the tech stack that can be used for developing chatbots using some pre-built tools. So like for Facebook Messenger, so Dialogflow, as I told you about Dialogflow and why we have been using Dialogflow is because it allows us to connect with different sort of platforms easily, and we can easily integrate one agent created on Dialogflow with different platforms. So for Facebook Messenger, there are different tools like ManyChat, Chatfuel, Janice AI, and Dialogflow again for the NLP part. For designing the conversational user interface and the flow, that's for that Chatfuel can be used. And Janice basically integrates Chatfuel with Dialogflow. For WhatsApp, yeah.
So what's one other thing when you commenting on these platforms? Which one have you found easier to train? Because there's going to be a little bit of a training process. I played around with Dialog for example, and every time it can't answer a question, it logs it and it pings me and it lets know this customer that, hey, I'm going to get back to you. But then I don't need to go retrain it. I just go to that question that couldn't be answered. I'm able to customize it, and it learns automatically. And the next time somebody asks a similar question, it's able to integrate in. All these other tools, are they similar, or is there a difference between them when it comes to the training part?
Yes, for the training, Dialogflow does offer the training section where you can just quickly go and see the logs, and you can just add whatever particular intent it actually had to match to. So the other platforms, I would still say that Dialogflow is way more user friendly when it comes to all of this. Uh, so that's what we actually found much better for Dialogflow. And also the best part about Dialogflow is that it keeps on training itself later on, also based on how the users have been interacting with the agent. So that's another plus point about Dialogflow. And for the training for other platforms like Lewis AI and Wit AI and Rasa, I would for the training part I would say that even they do have even for Rasa the training section is good, but then again the issue that comes is that we cannot easily integrate one agent to multiple platforms at once. And if we have to build the same thing for the same bot for multiple platforms, and that's where Dialogflow actually does help us a lot.
On that part so far. And by the way, anybody who wants to try this out, it's very intuitive, like she said, and they made it in such a way that you don't really need to understand coding or technology. It's just a little bit of a logic based. Anybody can quickly plug in, start playing around with it, and then you can ask some simple conversations. And the beauty is, the more conversations you have, then you can train it as it goes through.
So when you're working with Dialog for any other third-party NLP tool, you do not have to be an NLP expert or anything. You can just get started with it and start building chatbots quickly. So such tools, they really do help you get started with it and pretty quickly. So that's the advantage of getting started. To get started, you can just try out different tools and get just for the beginning, just to get started, and then later on in your startup, you can keep on doing research and development to different other tools that you could integrate in the future, or different features that you can add to your business later on.
Before we jump on to the next slide, Hunar, do you want to elaborate a little bit more as to what bot fulfillment means?
Yes, sure. So first I start with the WhatsApp, because last I just covered Facebook Messenger. So for WhatsApp also, Twilio offers WhatsApp sandboxes where you can easily develop WhatsApp chatbots. And even there's another latest tool called landbot.io where you can easily just create a flow of the conversation and you can deploy the bot for WhatsApp. And for website, again, we use Dialogflow, and you can easily integrate the Dialogflow agent to a website using different tools like Communicate or Bot Copy, and there are many other tools as well. For Twitter, Slack, and Telegram bots, again, we use the same thing. For bot fulfillment, the main two programming languages that are used are Node.js and Python. So basically, you use bot fulfillment to create a webhook for your chatbot. You can even create a chatbot on Dialogflow with zero coding. But if you want to do some extra stuff like for example connecting with any third party APIs, or maybe connecting with the database, so for that you need to add a fulfillment framework to your bot, and you can easily do that as well on Dialogflow. They do have a fulfillment section where you can easily deploy your code, which gets deployed on the Google Cloud Functions for Firebase. So that makes it easy as well again. So this is mainly used for the third party APIs like database connections.
So give us an example as to what that would look like. And I mean, in that case, you need somebody who understands a little bit of programming, the backend side.
Yes. Dialogflow does have a really good documentation on this. And that's where, in fact, I learned all of this from. So using that, you can go through it once. You can. So they do have client libraries for Node.js and Python, and they even have a client library for Java too. So you can use any of these, whichever of these languages you're comfortable with, and then and mainly it is used to handle specific intents that would require maybe we want to generate a dynamic response to a particular query. So for that, we need to add the bot fulfillment, because we cannot just return a plain text response back.
So for example, when I log in, it'll talk. The bot fulfillment will talk to the database and lets the chatbot know that my name is Vidusha. So the bot will say, "This hi Vidusha," and then if
we're saving it along with the fulfillment.
Yeah.
So whatever you so however you're interacting with the bot, all of those messages, they keep on getting logged, and then we send and then we've integrated our database to which it goes, and then the data gets stored there.
Right. Any questions so far? And is everybody confused yet? So I know there was a gentleman who was talking about last week about building a platform for mental health. I mean, I've seen some of those being done here on the chatbot side.
Yes.
And it's good because it's like you're talking to a friend. You got that feeling in it. So, and yeah, again, don't hesitate to stop and ask any questions if you guys have any.
For the mental health part, even I've been recently working on a side project. So it's a bot called Co-Relief, which I've been making. So basically, it aims to help people during COVID about any anxieties that they have about their future, etc. And it's more like a friend that people can talk to, because sometimes people actually do hesitate to get proper mental health support. So with the chatbot, they can receive such support, because it's just a bot that they're talking to, right? So once you're done with the development stage as well, the next step is to actually deploy it. So whatever you've made, either if it's like it's your first product for your business, do put that prototype on your website, or show it to your clients. If you're making it for your clients, then just ship it to them. Get them familiar with how they need to see the hotel, see the customer logins, etc. And how they can basically and then also based on that keep on getting feedback from the testing, and how the client and other users have been interacting with the bot, keep on improving and iterating over it. So that was it for the design, develop, and deploy stage for any software product or any product, literally. So is there any question until now?
To show us a demo. Do you have one scheduled? Do you have one set up?
You want to, okay, like
so yeah. So what I mean is, let's say if you take Dialogflow, for example, like the difference between the entities, the intents, and how to set it up a little bit, if that's possible.
So basically Dialogflow,
yeah,
like a little bit about Dialogflow.
From Dialogflow, for example, since we can demo it and we're both familiar with it. If anything that you can think of.
Yeah, sure. Just give me a second. I'll just share my screen once again.
Okay, so to give a quick update, so the way the bot understands is you need to define certain intents. An intent being finding somebody's name, or telling somebody hello, or getting somebody's information. So under that intent, you can ask multiple questions, and for those questions, you can add entities, and entities can be name, address, email. So for example, if you were to write, "What is your name?" that question, you need to define what that entity is, and it's tied to that intent. So I know once you do it a few times, then you'll understand it. Then you collect a few intents, and it become a collection of intents that you can get somebody, and you can categorize it as onboarding somebody to a platform, or trying to help them with a setup question. So the more intents you define overall, you'll have your bot becoming smarter every day, right? So Let's see whether she can quickly demo that. And this is available for free. Anybody can log in, create an account, start fooling around, and then you understand the more you do it. My advice in most cases for a lot of founders is if you don't know how to build a website, try a bot first and see how that goes, because that interaction itself is very intuitive for a user to understand.
So this is how the Dialogflow interface looks like. Can you all see my screen? So this is how the Dialogflow interface looks like. So on the left panel we've got intents. Intent is basically, you can think of intent to be a collection of different topics. So actually this is a bot which can talk about different daily life topics. So you can see a lot of daily life topics. So for that, like, we've added different intents to it that can handle, like, for example, like it can talk about, like in the alien intent, we've got different training phrases. Training phrases are basically the potential phrases that a user could use to chat about that particular topic. Like, let me just open one of the intent. So over here, so actually this is just a demo agent. So we've got a few training phrases. So which is like, can we talk about aliens, etc. And then we've got some responses filled up there. So whenever you're making a bot, you should try to add at least uh, 10 to 15, at least 10 to 15 training phrases in every single intent, because that's how your bot will be better at answering. And so this is it for the intent. So for every single topic, for every single use case that we need to handle, we create a separate intent. So this is the create intent button. And then we've got entities. Entities are basically the specific keywords that we're looking for in sentence that a user is saying. Like, we've made a few entities, like you can see negative emotions. Let me just open that. So like we've got a few words, and there's for the entities, and for every single word you can define synonyms, like the different words that the user could use to say that same thing. So entities are just some specific keywords that you're trying to analyze and understand from a query. So if a user uses any of the words, like, okay, I'm feeling really sad or whatever, then you can understand that it's a negative emotion. So this is it for the entities. And then this is the fulfillment section, where you can create your own, you can even create your own webhook. You can host it on Heroku or anywhere. And you can even use the inline editor, which is powered by Google Cloud Functions. So with the inline editor, you can just deploy the code over here itself. So this is a fulfillment code written in Node.js, which works along with so basically we're using the DuckDuckGo API over here to search for any other. So basically how this particular agent is working is that if a user has any query about a topic that is not there already in our agent, so that's when it goes on to the fulfillment. And, like, for example, if the user wants to know about COVID, we haven't trained the bot with COVID. So for that, for those sort of queries, we're calling the DuckDuckGo API, which will then return a response from Wikipedia about what COVID is. And then this is the training section, where you can see the logs, and then you can just match it to the correct intent, etc. You can even see the history about how people have been interacting with the bot, and there's also an analytics tab. So there has been no interaction with this actually in the past, this particular agent in the past few days. So we don't have much of the analytics right now, because the more people use it, that's when the analytics show. And this is just a demo bot. So this is how the Dialogflow platform is actually like, and it's pretty easy to use and get started with. There's also an option for small talk. So if you enable small talk, you can easily handle basic queries like hi, how are you, or emotions, hello, goodbye, thank you. So you can just enable that with the tap of a button. Sorry, okay, this bot. So now it's asking me how is the day going. Good. Nice to hear that. Tell me about your hobbies. I love to paint. Okay, there is no help. Actually, this is just a demo bot.
So
This is just a test that I was
Yeah.
just showing.
so that's good. And now the interesting thing there is if you say hello again, Hunar, say hello. Yeah. So you can see the bot detects the context, is the mood, what you're
That's right.
doing, right? So you can define all these things, and there's a few things that are predefined already that you can use as examples that you can play around with.
Contexts are basically, sorry,
No, go ahead.
I was just telling about the context. So contexts are basically used in Dialogflow to create a contextual conversation. Like for example, if you want to talk about some particular topic, so you're going to have follow-up questions on that as well, right? So if you want to connect one conversation with another, so for that you actually use context. So that, like for example, if I'm just asking about the user's hobby, so if I say painting, then it can ask me further more about painting, that what do you like to paint, what was the last painting that you made, etc. So for that I'm going to use context to make the flow a little bit contextual and make it sound a little more human like. Okay.
Limitations of Dialogflow. It is free to use, but there's only a limited number of intents you can integrate. I believe it was 250. I don't know whether the number went up. Yeah. So yeah, this is a free tool to use. You can integrate with anything you want, and you can build up to 250 intents. I think there's a limit as to how much API calls you can do, as well as certain premium built-in, pre-built agents that you can add. So, but it's a good place to start off, and then as you go start using it, then you can implement it.
For the API calls, you can even increase that. Like if you switch on to a Firebase Blaze plan, you can easily integrate several third-party APIs. So with that plan, that problem gets solved. And yes, the issue is there that you cannot create more than 250 intents. That's the limit. And I think 200-ish intents should be more than enough. I mean, the maximum intents that we've ever added would be around 190-ish to 200. So I mean, it's pretty much fine until now. But of course, to scale the chatbots at a greater rate, in the future, we will be using different tools, etc., and frameworks, which will be and create our own infrastructure basically for NLP. But that's something for the future, as I said. And to get started, Dialogflow is very easy to use. I mean, anyone can just get started with it. You don't even have to, I mean, it's not important to add the fulfillment code if you're not dealing with any of the APIs. You can just make a simple bot just by using intents and entities. So that's the best part about it. So even if you're new to programming, you can just get started with making a basic bot and you can try it out. You can integrate it with different platforms using the integrations tab easily. You can integrate it with Google Assistant and many more.
So Ananya asked a question on YouTube. What does the Dialogflow integrate with? There you go. That's the answer. Great.
So all of these different platforms, and that's the best thing about it, because just with one agent you can integrate it with different platforms. So if you're making an omni-channel chatbot which works on different platforms as well, you don't have to retrain it again on a separate agent. You can just integrate it easily just with a tap and then set it up on that particular platform, of course. But this is just for the Dialogflow part. So so any other question about Dialogflow?
The principle that you outlined, intent entities, it's universally accepted.
Yes, right. In majority of the platforms, you are going to have intense entities because that's how how NLP basics actually work.
Tarun, do you have a question? We can't hear you, mate.
Yeah, sorry, I was on mute. Sorry, just to introduce myself really quickly, my name is Tarun, I'm from Toronto, and my startup that I'm working on is Insura, which is focusing on connecting developers and tech people with insurance to innovate the insurance industry and to show that there is innovation to be created within the insurance industry. So I had a couple of questions in regards to general chatbots. So do you think it's better for a company, like let's say an insurance company, for example, to create their own chatbot, and like what I mean is that by that is like hiring like a team of people to like hiring a group of permanent developers there, like to be part of the company, or do you think it might be better to have that chatbot be created by a freelance developer, and then once the project is done, they get paid and they're no longer part of the company? So do you think a chatbot should be created by someone with like permanent employment, or like more of a freelance sort of thing?
So currently also, I mean, there are a lot of businesses that are coming up with chatbots. I mean, there are several businesses like Kasisto, etc., that have been making chatbots for businesses. Actually, if you go in with a business is actually uh, that is actually focusing on building chatbots, then I think it will be better to outsource it maybe than actually hiring people to build the chatbots. Maybe, I mean, if it's a small company, then I think it will be better to go in with outsourcing it to a company that actually specializes in building the bots, because uh, they are the ones who will actually be familiar with how it's supposed to be done for that specific industry as well. So I think that will be a better choice. I mean, if it's just a small company, then you can just easily outsource it to any business that is good at making chatbots, that has been making several chatbots for businesses, or to any freelance developer who has previous experience in it. But yeah, if you do want to have like a team, like I mean, if the business is well established, etc., then you can probably go in with hiring people who will be making the chatbot for your business in house. So for that case, I think that would be better.
So sorry, if it's like a larger company, then it might be better to like hire someone to be like part of the company to create that, or like create it in house.
Yes,
If it's a larger
then you can
company.
easily yes, I mean, then you can easily do it. But I mean, if you just want to get if you just want to consult some business that has actually been already doing work in that area, and I mean, a business that is into the chatbot development, they will be knowing better about it, right? Because they have been dealing with clients, they have been building it. And also, if you just outsource it
Mm-hmm.
out to them, you know that they are going to make something actually good instead of just
Mm-hmm.
hiring people, etc. And also, it's going to save you time and the investments that you'll otherwise have to make to have in-house engineers to make the bots.
Mm-hmm.
The context of your question. So what? So you're a startup. Why do you care whether they hire or outsource it? Give me the reason.
Well, yeah, sure, I can do that. So basically, what I'm trying to do is to connect tech people, so not just developers, but machine learning people, product managers to insurance. And so what I'm trying to figure out is, would it be better for insurance companies who are trying to get ahead of the curve? Because generally speaking, insurance is regarded, and it is I guess, behind the curve in terms of innovation. So I'm just trying to figure out if it would be better for them to, hire this talent directly in order to innovate themselves versus, outsourcing it to a different company to create that innovation within that company.
I would hire a team. The reason I'm saying that is, if you look what Hunar just presented, the core, the foundation it's universal. And then the only value they bring in is, number one, the data that the insurance companies have. I don't want anybody to see my data. I want it to be hidden. I want to run experiments on those data and certain value that bring into the customer, including the customer information. So right in that case, I wouldn't outsource it to anybody. I would keep it. And looking at the how quickly this whole industry is evolving, it's not going to be a huge capital investment for an organization like that. Like you can have 5-6 developers max, take care of all of it using pre-existing platform like this, but customize the questions like what she demoed to you, and experiment, run more experiments, figure out ways to engage, figure out ways to add more value. So for example, insurance company can be the bot can talk to me every time when I get into an accident, or when I have a question about certain damages, and it can have that integration. So for example, when I get into an accident, I take the pictures, I integrate it. Now the chatbots collect that information, sends to an OCR, it analyzes it, automatically does the damage, location, all that, and estimate. So that's another layer that they can add, which I would, if I were one of them, I would hire a few people to do that. I'd keep that proprietary and not share it with anybody else. So you got to think about as what they see in the long term as well. Obviously, it'll help reduce the traffic that's going into their customer service lines and things like that. But what else can you do with it? So think about it. No, that's what I'm saying. That's how you need to think when you're pitching it to them.
Got it.
Any other questions?
I just have a quick question.
Sure. Jackie, do you want to give us a little bit of background as to what you do as well, so that way we know?
Yeah, for sure. So I am the co-founder of a friendlier company, and we are creating a smart reusable food packaging system in which we supply restaurants with reusable takeout food containers, and then we facilitate the reuse of the containers. So we'll collect them and wash them and then resupply. And so for us, like a chatbot wouldn't be something that's like super the central of our business, but it could be helpful in terms of customer service if people have questions, answering questions that they might have. And so I'm not very familiar with chatbots, but just seeing your Dialogflow demo really helped to understand how it works. And I was just kind of wondering if this is something that, you know, we could implement and on Dialogflow and it would interface with our website. I know it interfaces with Messenger and things like that. And is it something that we could do ourselves and interface to our website?
Yes, you can do it yourself as well using Dialogflow and other third-party tools to actually integrate Dialogflow with a website. And it will be a great idea to have a chatbot for your business so that you can easily handle the queries that any user might have. So there are different tools like Communicate and Bot Copy that can help you just add your Dialogflow agent on a website.
Okay.
So you can try out one of those.
And do you have any advice for like when you first start out, like what are the first couple of things you should look at in terms of like your intents and context?
So the first thing is, I mean, the most basic thing, maybe just take a paper and a pen and just think about what can be the different use cases. I mean, what kind of particular intents you need to handle. And once you have that ready, then you can just get on with Dialogflow and you can just start making intents. You can add multiple training phrases to it. Training phrases will be what potentially users could say to invoke that particular intent. So that's the main thing. I mean, just think about it. You can even use some prototyping tool if you want to, like Bot Society, to prototype it out. Or otherwise, if you, in fact, you can just, start with Dialogflow as well, if you just want to make it quickly.
Okay, great, thank you.
So Jackie, I don't know whether you knew how restaurants used to do food orders to their suppliers. They used to just call the supplying company and leave a voice message saying, I need 50 kilos of potatoes and 10 kilos of onions. Till 4 years ago, there was no solution to that. Till I think Chef Hero built one of the platforms, and there's a few others who are doing it. So see how you can integrate that, because remember, they're very busy. They don't have time to like do all this stuff. The bot can automatically assume that they need a renewal, they need to upgrade, they need to say, hey, and it can be a simple question. Hey, you ordered this much, maybe you need to upgrade it, maybe you need to put a new order in. or the demand, COVID is ending, that means things are opening. So you can add a little bit more intelligence to streamline that. And that convenience might be the selling point for you versus somebody else.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yes, chatbots can also help retarget the customers who are already there. So they can just follow up with them like after a few days about how the service was, and if they want to order anything else, they can even try to upsell specific items based on the previous order, and suggest some new products that have just launched. So that's another way how chatbots can help businesses.
We take one more question from YouTube before we
Okay.
jumping back into the regular programming. In production, so Ravinashkar Sundaram is asking, in production, how can we monitor how the chatbot is behaving? Do we have an option to seeing live by picking any user session? So he's asking whether is it possible to see a live conversation that the bot is doing with one of the customers?
Okay, so that's something that you cannot actually see from Dialogflow, but but then that's something then platform specific. Like if you're making a Facebook bot, say using Chatfuel, over there you can track a particular customer interaction, like a particular user's interaction. So then that's again platform specific. Like if you're making a WhatsApp bot, you're using Dialogflow with Twilio, then you can check the logs for that particular conversation there from Twilio. On Dialogflow, you won't get the user details actually, or which mobile number it's interacting with, or which Facebook user it's interacting with. That's so this is the downside of Dialogflow. You cannot get that sort of information from Dialogflow, but for that, the other tool that you're using for that specific platform to integrate it with Dialogflow, from there you can actually get that information.
Awesome. Let's jump back into the presentation. I know we have another 30 minutes or so.
Okay. So I think we've spoken a lot about chatbots and how chatbots have played an instrumental role in automating the interactions for businesses. Now let's just have a look at the basic automation tools. So basically automation is not just limited to chatbots. You can automate any of your daily tasks and make it simpler by just putting it on autopilot, and it's going to do that for you. So there are various tools like Zapier, If This Then That, Integromat, and AppScript that can help you do a lot of things. Like you can easily bulk send dynamic emails. You can share content across social media, like all social media platforms, just by automating it. You can notify your team about any new leads that are there on your website. You can save new WooCommerce orders to a new Google Sheet spreadsheet. You can generate invoices as soon as an order gets placed using Integromat. And you can even, so if you're making a Telegram bot, you can connect it with Integromat and send the latest statistics for COVID on Telegram as well. So, and you can even automatically save new Stripe charges to a Google Sheet. Basically, there are a lot of use cases with these tools. So these are also some great tools that you can explore if you plan to automate basic stuff for your business. So now let's just talk about the future of conversational AI. So recently, so first in February 2019, OpenAI, they released the GPT-2 language model that I think someone has been using. GPT-2 could generate several paragraphs of natural language text, which was often impressively realistic and internally coherent based on short prompt. But the recent GPT-3 API by OpenAI is the largest language model ever created with over 175 billion plus parameters. And so basically, GPT is for AI what cloud is for computing. The release of the model has wide-ranging implications for a number of industries, in particular chatbots and customer service. And the ability of GPT-3 to generate paragraphs of seemingly realistic text should appeal to anyone interested in creating more convincing human-like AI. So there are indications that models like GPT-3 are approaching human-like abilities, at least for shallow interactions, as would be involved in a chatbot conversation. And the list of tasks that GPT-3 can solve is massive. The developers are still discovering more as they dig further. So GPT-3 is being used for generating poetry, summarizing stories, rewriting things in different styles, for chatbots, customer service, and even for automatic code generation from simple natural language descriptions, generating presentations, writing articles, generating financial statements, all creating a layout on Figma. So this is an example of GPT-3 in action. So someone created a website called dbuild.co, which uses the GPT-3 API. So you just describe what you want, how you want the website to look like, and it will automatically generate the code on its own. So using natural language understanding, it tries to understand what the user actually wants, and based on that, then it generates the website code and the website. This is an example of chatbots that are being created with GPT-3 or sample conversation with it. So it can also be used to easily create chatbots that are more human-like. And GPT-3 is the next breakthrough in AI, in fact.
Once you build a chatbot, once you have that infrastructure built, the AI that supports it, it's going to be more advanced. That means you can do more with it. You don't necessarily need to define the granular things that you've been doing for a while. It'll automatically make this thing simpler. So as a developer, as a builder, as an innovator, all you have to do is find out the use case that will add value to your customers and start adding those as features. Is that a good assumption to make?
Yes, right. It is. Then on GPT, you can even generate layouts with simple natural language input. You can just describe how you want the layout to look like, and it will create it for you along with the code. So that's how GPT-3 has been working. And still it's not out yet for the public yet, but you can request for its API on their website, on OpenAI's website. Some other human-like chatbots that have been created by Google and Facebook are, it's Google's Mina. So basically, this was released by Google in recently, a few months back, I think in January 2020. So Mina uses the transformer sequence-to-sequence architecture, and it has over 2 billion parameters in the network. So it has been trained over a huge amount of text from social media platforms, over 8 times larger than the training data for GPT-2, but now there's GPT-3 as well. Google engineers trained Mina on 40 billion words from social media platforms. Mina models conversations are like trees, where the first message is the root node and responses are children of the previous message. And this is a sample conversation for the Google Mina chatbot. There is another chatbot by Facebook, which is called Blender, which has recently been released. I think in April they released this, and so this has been developed by Facebook AI Research. So basically, the Blender chatbot also uses a lot of billions of parameters, which is almost 4 times as many as Mina. Facebook engineers designed Blender to have a broad general knowledge base by training it on Wikipedia articles and then fine-tuning it on actual conversations between real human beings. So that's it for the future of chatbots. Is there any question?
Let's see if we have any questions from YouTube. No questions there either, so we're good. Yeah.
Okay, so now I'll share a little bit about developer student clubs and what were the chatbot projects that we did. So, so one of the application was a multilingual voice application. So mainly it aims to provide healthcare literacy to rural population in India, and we trained it with uh, 213 intents, I think, and we had a lot of entities as well. And then we even trained it. We made it for Hindi and English, and our research work was also published in IEEE Explore recently. And the tech stack that we mainly used for this was Dialogflow actions on Google, Node.js fulfillment, along with the cloud function for Firebase and Firebase. Then another chatbot that I mentioned a while back was the mental health chatbot, which is the CoRelief bot, which helps to fight COVID-19 related anxieties and support mental health. And that's a website chatbot that was made using React.js, Kendo UI, and Dialogflow API again. So these are some sample screens of those bots. On the left, it's the CoRelief bot, and on the right, it's the multilingual voice application that provides the healthcare literacy. So these are some of the chatbot projects that we did. That's it from my side. So if anyone has any questions.
So Hunar, let's go back to the two projects. We're not going to let you get out that easy. We got more questions to ask you. Okay, so CoRelief bot. Where did you really like? Was it a mobile application? Did you integrate with WhatsApp, Facebook? And then walk us through the little process. Okay, and then what's the impact? What's the impact has been so far?
So it's a website bot. So so right now that bot is down actually since a few days. So, but before that, we did do testing with various students in our university. They had been interacting with the bot, and we were keeping on training it further. So we had to add different use cases, like if someone has anxiety about their jobs, about the future, further education, or just generic anxieties about COVID-19 and about the pandemic. So those were the main sort of user queries that we were handling.
And you said you had 213 intents
for this one, for the Aapka Sahara voice application.
Okay, and walk us through that. Now, I know something visual would be nice. Is that out? Is that bot ready or is it down as well? The Aapka Sahara.
Right now it's not, because there are some updates required to be done to it. It was there on Google Assistant earlier.
Okay, so you said they had 213 intents. So the way I explain intents to somebody is, so let's say if I ask you to describe your morning from the time you wake up, the time you get to work, every step you take, that can be a little intent. So within that intent,
even a follow-up intent is counted in these intents.
Right.
So if you're making a follow-up intent, like from the time say if the bot says hi, how are you, then it talks about what the user did today, etc. So that's like a follow-up intent further.
Right.
So even that is counted as a separate intent.
So that's interesting, because I think the biggest thing I had trouble understanding, or I wanted to match, was how do these intents lay? Because we getting up, going to work, let's say I have 15 different steps. Each step is an intent itself. There are things I do within that. How do I tie those things together? And what if somebody skips it? And how do you create that loop to bring them back? Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So for tying those intents together, that's where the context, the input and output context play a role. So whenever you want to connect one particular intent with the other intent, then you use the output intent, and the intent that you're connecting to, on that particular intent, you add an input context, sorry. So that's how you actually connect one intent with the other. And then suppose if I'm connecting one intent to 3 different intents using contexts, now it will go to the particular intent that the user wants to go based on the training phrases. So if I've got, so just for example, if it's like a how are you intent, okay, we're just asking the user how they're feeling today. So the response can be positive as well, that, oh, I'm not feeling good. It can be a negative it can be a negative response as well, like, um, and it can even be a positive response back, like, I'm feeling wonderful or something like that. And it can even be like, the third case could be like, if, oh, I'm just feeling okay, I'm just feeling fine. So these are the three cases for how are you. So what we do is we connect the first how are you intent with the positive reply, the negative reply, and the okayish reply intent. Then based on whatever the user replies with, then the user will be following that particular path of the flow. So we've connected it with the text.
Right. So the contexts are defined based on what the intents that they already completed or interacted with. Is that correct to assume? So for example, morning routine. I sometimes have coffee at home, but then I have coffee at work. So when the bot asks me, what are you doing? I'm grabbing coffee. But if it already knows that I've done the travel to work, I picked up my car, or all that jazz, the context changes to my location being in the office compared to being at home. Is that a correct assumption to anybody
Yes.
who's new to that? Okay.
So if we've connected all of those flows, then yes, it can get to know. We can even save the user responses in between conversations on Dialogflow. That's another pro of Dialogflow. Dialogflow has internal states which can actually save what the user said if we're connecting the flow.
Okay. Okay. So that being said, I know it's a little high level for everybody, but I'm more than happy to organize a session where actually we go build something. Talk to Madhuri, talk to Naveed. If you guys can find the time, we can schedule it. We can go from there. Please if you have any questions, open up the questions, and we're taking questions from YouTube as well.
Sorry, Madhusha, I had one question. So when you say like build something, do you mean like a chatbot specifically, or like
a chatbot
any
specifically?
other kind of, like...
We're going to start building like a simple chatbot.
Oh, okay.
For example, how do you organize? Like, I want a chatbot to organize this weekly meetings, for example. Like, what's that process, or something simple? Yeah.
No, I would definitely be really interested in that.
Any other questions? And it doesn't, so I know the technology, if you guys want to ask more deep questions about tech, but in general, I think this is going to be, it's going to give you all a leg up. If you are able to integrate this in one way or another, because customer support takes a lot of effort when you're starting out. And as a founder, you're going to spend a lot of time building the product, talking to the customers, trying to bring it in, and then doing support is going to take a huge amount of effort. But if you can incorporate some of these principles into your designs, into your companies, it'll help a lot. So that being said, any questions, not just the tech side, in general, where do you think, or how do you think you can incorporate this? Or maybe you can challenge us and tell us what your business is, and maybe we can brainstorm. You, me, Hunar, and a few others can like jump in and say, I think this is how I would see it fit, or this is how maybe it's not a good fit, and so on. So
I had a question. So I'm trying to build a online platform called My Kairos that's going to help students with their personal growth and break any limiting mindsets and empower them. I was thinking to have people create their own journal entries, and I was wondering, within a chatbot, I know that some of the tools that you outlined can pull out different emotions, but instead of having just like somebody or on the other side talking to them, if the chatbot can kind of read what they're saying, take in the information and kind of the emotion behind it, and then give me data based on how they wrote their journal entry, and I don't have to just read a bunch of journal entries myself.
So yeah, if you're building like if you're going to make it like in a conversational way, like for the journal, so if it's in the form of like a chatbot, then yes, you can analyze that by having separate intents and entities that can handle it. You can create entities for negative emotions, for positive emotions, etc. And then you can further create intent where you do add a few. I mean, for journal, I mean, people can just write anything. So it's kind of going to be a little. I mean, it's going to take a little while when you're for your chatbot to actually be able to handle all the kind of queries that all the kind of journals that people are going to actually write. So, but you can do that simply by just using entities to extract the specific keywords. So based on that, you can just get to know, and then you can maybe just add for that you'll have to add a fulfillment code, so that if the user goes to that particular entity, then that means that there's a negative emotion. Then you can just simply log an entry on a Google Sheet or any database, etc.
You can add other elements to it behind the scenes too. Elvira, is that how you're saying it?
Yep.
So for example, then you can do a location track, then you know what the weather is like, and you can even get a sense as to the time of the day and go, okay, every day when this person is feeling blue, it's around this time, or when the weather is like this. And then you can add, like, I'm going to let you be creative and see what you can do with the data. So I think the goal here, as Hunar mentioned, is getting the engagement is very important in what you're trying to do. So, for example, everybody who wants to meditate, we don't exercise. Like, our apps are always reminding us, trying to get us engaged. But if this is something that is very intuitive, very interactive, that might give you a leg up compared to logging into a website and having a conversation or entering it in or something like that. So I focus on both aspects of it and see what else you can do with the data.
Okay, yeah, because I was thinking on my own, I would use Typeform to kind of get data, and then I would kind of be the algorithm behind it. But I guess chatbots seem like a good way to go as well.
Yes, you can easily automate it, because otherwise you'll have to go through every single entity, every single entry.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, I appreciate it.
So Ivan from Alpha Liberté here. So I had another follow-up question. So originally, when we were building our AI platform, basically, just to recap, it's just a definition or glossary of questions and indexing resources that we have on our website, being from stock reports that we physically write, and I guess indexing those, or just tools that we have. So the way we initially thought about doing it was like going to like a website like Simply Financial, or like not even Simply Financial, but like just going to like online websites and just scraping their information, and then just in like Investopedia and scraping their information and storing it like on a like through JSON or something, and then we would index a bunch of the data with, I guess, our information as well, and recalling it. But then a few days ago, we were recommended to do GP3 from OpenAI. So I've looked into it just a little bit because I'm still building, I guess, our React Native application. But I was wondering, what suggestions would you have when building our AI chatbot, and what would the workflow kind of be in terms of it? Initially, we were, I guess, told to do indexing and like short-term memory, recalling, and like, I guess, document indexing. And like we were told to like look at Apache Solr. So I was just looking for other alternatives, or how would you go about doing this?
Yes, GPT-3 is pretty good if you want to create a chatbot based on AI and natural language processing. And yes, long short-term memory is the actual algorithm that is used for if you're doing NLP right from scratch. So I think whatever you're doing sounds to be right. And actually, I do not have much experience into it, but even I'm still on an exploration stage for those sort of chatbots.
I think he's diving deeper into the NLP side.
Yes, he's
right?
diving
a
deeper
lot
into the
more.
NLP side.
Yeah.
And is there a reason for that? Like, have you tested all the other systems out? That's like, I know I mentioned like Dialogflow is one of them. I think Watson is another one. I'm not sure who's good when it comes to financials and doing more logic. Have you researched anything that you can quickly plug and play?
So what I've seen online, I haven't really dived too deep into like plug and play, but we've looked at just, I guess, using like TensorFlow to do NLP a little bit, and like kind of just starting our own, I guess, like accessing our data that we keep when we scrape all the information. We have looked into Watson, but we didn't. I think it's a little bit expensive. I could be wrong, but I haven't really gone too much into diving into a bunch of the information.
So figure that out, because in the end of the day, what the chatbots and what the systems can do is collect information and present it accordingly. And some of the processing you can do on other systems, and it doesn't need to be NLP since you're dealing with finances, right? So explore, and I'm happy to follow up with you later down the road.
I definitely would love to connect one-on-one. Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
Good questions. No questions, no answers. Okay, so in that case, I'm checking YouTube. Yeah, we don't have any questions from YouTube either. Let Madhavi and Naveed and Madison know if you guys want to do, if you have the time, if you have the bandwidth to sit down and we all group build an app. Hunar, I'm not going to volunteer this before talking to you. But that being said, I want to give a special thank you to Hunar. I know it's pretty late in India. What time is it right now?
No, it's just 9 p.m.
Oh, 9 p.m. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for taking the time. Thank you for sharing your story. It's very inspirational for all of us. And thank you for doing everything that you're doing. And hopefully we'll be able to collaborate on a few other events that are coming.
Sure.
If anybody's interested, I think follow her on Twitter, and her company's out. I think I mapped it on the LinkedIn message I put out there. See what kind of things you guys can collaborate on, and more than happy to be the conduit to that going forward. So thank you so much for taking the time. I know we have 15 minutes left that I can give back to you guys. I'm still confirming as to what next week's session is going to be, and see you all next week.